Yes, Mr. Doug Rawlings, thank you.
Thanks. I'm not going to get into any great length, but first of all, I really do appreciate your acknowledging the Bangor 12, if you will. There were 12 of us who chose to be arrested, and I think that should be underlined. I think if this afternoon's testimony goes in any direction that the morning's gone, you're in for a real treat. I want to acknowledge the folks who've spoken so far from the Bangor Six: John Krebs, Rob Shetterly, Doug Hendrick, Jimmy. We are in good hands, folks. This is a very interesting process. We went through the jury selection process yesterday, and due to the good work of Phil Warden and Lynn, we were able to give questionnaires to the jury and select our jury a little bit more carefully than perhaps has been done in the past. I know those of you who are there at the trial might be watching the jury's response to what we're saying, so I'm not going to ask for that at this moment, but just keep an eye on what's going on there. But I think we're representing ourselves well. And I would say that, you know, in terms of criminal trespass, the criminals, I think we're beginning to make evident, I would hope, to the jury, are the people who are holding office, who are still supporting this illegal war, and certainly supporting it through funding it. And so we're going to point out again and again and again that the real crime being committed here, as far as we're concerned, is this crime called the Iraq War. And I would also extend that to say the Afghanistan War, as a matter of fact. And in terms of trespass, well, I think also these folks are, as representatives of the United States military, are more guilty of trespass than we are, because they're trespassing into our homes and taking our children and you know, forcing them, if you will, through economic means or whatever, into this war. And so they're the trespassers as far as we're concerned. We are, in all honesty, we feel, in all honesty, to be citizens of the United States, supporting the Constitution of the United States, and merely asking our representatives to uphold that Constitution. That's our intent, and I think we're a long way to proving that. So again, thank you all for being here, for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And again, I remind you to remember the Bangor 12. And I think I'm not supposed to turn, oops. Okay.
Thank you. Brief reminder that the U.S. Senate campaign of Lori Dobson put this event on for us this afternoon, so if we just briefly acknowledge Lori, and also U.S. Senate candidate Tom Ledoux. So I was asked to acknowledge them, and I hope you will as well. Next, Mr. Robert Shetterly would like to make a statement.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being here, and thanks, Lori, for putting this together so that there was a retreat like this to come to with food and water and all that good stuff. And thanks for so many people coming out today to support this trial and support us. I was thinking when, you know, Dud is back there, and he asked the last question when I was on the stand was, you know, how many times have you spoken in the last few years about, you know, since the war began or something like that? And I think what he was really asking was, how many more times do we have to listen to you say the same thing? So, how many more times? Anyway, well, of course, if the war would end, we wouldn't have to listen to me anymore. But I think, you know, it's interesting about what's happening over in that courthouse right now. At least it seems to me that for one of the first times in some time, we're being allowed to advance beyond the sort of niggling closeness of a particular law and get to what the spirit of the law is really all about. And that, of course, in this case, it's the spirit of the law involves the reality of the situation we're all in at this point, and the courts have been used a lot, and the law has been used to keep us from acknowledging what that reality is, whether we're talking about climate change or the war or the economy or the cost of food or, various kinds of social, economic, or environmental justice. The law has been used so often to keep people from actually dealing with those truths and healing their own situations. And here, thanks to Judge Murphy, we're being invited to, I think, try to approach the spirit of the law and why people actually do the things they do, how they try to act out of a conscientious and moral position in accordance with their understanding of the law, and try to make amends for what's been done in their name. One of the things that Dud has heard me quote a lot, and I will again and again and again, is Frederick Douglass, who once said, "Find out what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong that will be imposed on them." And we are certainly trying to do our little bit, and with the help of all the rest of you, into not being quiet, not being submissive, and to not let any more injustice be imposed on us. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Next, I guess, Mr. Henry Braun. Yes. Mr. Braun, are you here? Yes.
Well, Lynn Williams suggested that to the jury that I might say, Lynn Williams suggested to the jury that I might read or say a poem to them, and I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. So being asked, I could do one here. This is very old. I wrote it really in honor of Senator Fulbright during the Vietnam War, when there was a consensus that the Vietnam War was just, and it goes like this. And I dedicate it now to Lieutenant Watada and the Winter Soldiers who testified recently in Washington. These days, the sunlight almost seems total. A few men and women, trees, stand between heaven and earth. In the light of their shadows, we others are reading, still, messages the dead have stopped sending. These days of almost fatal sunlight. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Freeman. Mr. Freeman, please.
Thank you all, and thanks for putting this together. And it's great to have your support and to come out and a little bit of the community spirit, but I ask us to carry this forth. We got arrested 14 months ago, and I'm pretty politically aware. I could not have foreseen that things would have gotten this much worse in that time. I think gasoline was $2.50 a gallon. It's more than $1, $1.50 more, went up 14 cents last week. There's a appropriations bill for another $172 billion that Bush is trying to push through for funding for the next year. It's $12 billion a month. People in many third world countries are starting to starve because we're producing biodiesel instead of food to make up for the oil. The oil companies are still benefiting from that. So I just encourage you to just keep on, keep on. We've got a lot of work to do. We can't stop. We've got to unite, put our differences aside, and really work together to stop this, because it's going to collapse and a lot of people are going to be hurt. Anyway, thank you very much.